Hi, my name's Tom Grester. I fished in the professional walleye trail for 6 years as a pro, and as a result I picked up a few tricks. Here's one I kind of invented on my own that I thought was kind of handy. Typically we fished a lot of big water. Open water trolling was the preferred method, and planer boards were very common. The standard method for planer boards for accuracy was to find a 0 to length of line out point. So typically most guys would reel the bait up to the rod tip and then zero out their line counter and then proceed to put line out. I'll go and hook onto the bumper of the truck here to make a demonstration. Typically what you're after is repeatability. When you find something that's working, i.e. a length of line out that's working for you, you want to be able to repeat it consistently. So accuracy is important. So the typical method would be, let this pick an arbitrary number here. We'll say 30 feet. So I'll reel the line counter to 30, and then normally what guys would do in order to access the rod tip, because we want to place the planer board at the 30 mark, which is here right now, is you would put it on at the tip. To negotiate this, you have to set the rod down to get to the tip. And this is an 8'6" rod. Sometimes you're using 10-foot rods. It can be a little cumbersome in a boat to do that. So I'll set the planer board down. I'm going to place a marker beside it. I'll show you this later to prove a point here. Well, in order to do this, I'll have to start over. Now I come up with a different method which I believe is far more efficient and easier. So, most cases, when storing the rods, just hook the crankbait on the reel. It's a nice, effective place to have it. So, what I found was it really cumbersome to set the rods down and access the tip. I found it really irritating, to tell you the truth, and time-consuming and awkward. And people tripping over your rod when they're trying to pay attention to what they're doing. So, I'd pick up a rod out of storage, I'd zero it at this point here on the line. Now, hook it onto the bumper again, and we'll do this one more time. Now I started reasoning one day that, well, if I was zero at this point, if I hooked the bait on at this point on the line, it would be whatever the counter was, say 30 feet. But you can't hook it on here. It won't go through the eyelets. So I started thinking, well, if I just swing the rod around, I don't have to set it down. I can pick a 30-foot mark, the same 30-foot mark. Well, now that same 30-foot mark is here beside the reel where I hooked it on. Now, I've had the debate with people that no, it'll be different. The line, you haven't taken into consideration the distance of the line from the reel up through the eyelet and back. And so, well, no, wait, 0 to 30 at any point on the line is 0 to 30. So it should be 30 feet. So we'll set this down beside our marker, and I'll come to the camera and show you that without having to set the rod down, keeping on one hand the whole time, you can do the same rigging procedure much more quickly and with much less trouble. And I'll show you that it lands at the same place on the marker that I set on the ground here beside it the first time when we did it from the tip, achieving the same result. And so as you can see, I used the silver tape measure as a marker on the ground the first time. We're exactly duplicate of the 30-foot mark. So regardless of the number that you're working with, 0 to 30, from as long as you hook the planer board on or a snap weight if you're working with snap weights and you're trying to repeat that. As long as you hook the planer board on at the same point where you had zeroed the reel, which is right here, you're good. And all you need to do that is swing the rod forward, point it in front of the boat so the line comes along beside you, and without ever having to set the rod down, you can rig up and be ready to go. So there's a little tip that'll save you a lot of time on the water. Thanks for listening.